met a guy and I thought, yeah, I want to be like him, who was a great rock and roll guitar player. And I had no money. This guy that I met loaned me a book. And then at the end of the book, there was a chapter that was about 8 pages long that professed to tell you everything you needed to know to build 2 different kinds of guitars. So I took the book and started looking it over and decided, yeah, I could probably do that. It was enough to get me started, so that was how I built my first guitar. At the time, it was the greatest guitar that had ever been built. I couldn't believe I had done it. My father was so proud. He was walking around the neighborhood with it, showing all of his friends what I had done. I am completely self-taught. I've never had anyone show me anything. When I got into it, when I built the first guitar, or even the first 2 or 3 guitars, I had no idea that it would lead to this being a full-time job. I mean, I've built almost 300 guitars now, and when you add in mandolins and ukuleles and all that, my total is well over 300. So I've done enough that I know if I change one thing, how it's going to affect the ultimate sound of the guitar. It's still very difficult to know exactly the qualities of the materials I'm working with. Even if you have successive cuts of wood off of the same log, they're each a little different physically, and so you have to really just tweak everything right to that specific instrument. I remember seeing sets of Brazilian rosewood, the back and sides, being advertised for $100, and now it's nothing to spend $3,000 for the same piece of wood. There are a lot of stories in the media about all of the abandoned buildings in Detroit. My son and a friend of mine gave me an idea. What if we could take some of the wood from these old buildings and make new musical instruments? I heard about a place called Reclaim Detroit, which is a part of Focus Hope, which is a local charitable organization. Homeowners donate their abandoned homes to this organization, and they dismantle them and sell all of the materials that they can salvage. So I went to the Reclaim Detroit warehouse, and they showed me all of the building materials that they had taken out of a house that was well over 100 years old. I wound up with a couple of big bundles of maple floorboards and also some sections of 2x10 Douglas fir ceiling joists. So when I get the wood from Reclaim Detroit, this is pretty much how the floorboards look. They're covered with decades of grime and dirt. A lot of the floorboards have nail holes in them. And so before I can actually use any of this in an instrument, I have to clean up the wood, generally starting with a chisel, to get off some of this surface grime. And then I'll slice the wood up on my bandsaw to reveal the clean wood that's inside, and then I can select what I'm going to use. So I built a ukulele. Really didn't have very high hopes for it because I've played maple ukuleles before, maple-backed ukuleles, and they have a real dead kind of sound. But I built this one, and it sounded great. It sounded at least as good as any traditional ukulele with a koa backside and top set. And I'm almost finished building a guitar now out of all of this wood. I invited my friend Rob, a local studio musician, over to test out the sound of one of the Reclaim Detroit maple ukuleles.
This is beautiful. This is very old sounding, and it's very resonant. For maple, it doesn't have too bright of a sound, which is often the case. And it sounds like an old, sounds like an old koa or mahogany sort of ukulele. It doesn't have a maple sound. I don't know why. That's a very interesting top on there too. So beautiful, excellent. Nice action, great sustain, good plunky tone. Very loud.
On all of the instruments that I'm building from the reclaimed Detroit materials, there's a small mother-of-pearl inlay of a house. This is a reproduction of the house that the materials came from. It was built in 1910 and is located about 2 blocks away from the Motown studios. Right now I'm really enjoying building instruments out of this reclaimed wood, not only because the wood is so old and well seasoned, but also because I think the projects pay tribute to the craftsmen who built these fine homes 100 years ago. I like to say that I'm building instruments not made in Detroit, but made of Detroit.